Hi, dear ones. Today I'm not sitting outside in the sunshine, in nature, but in the dark here in my room. By candlelight. Because today we're talking about the topic of sleep disorders. Today I have a nice list of 10 for you again, namely my 10 golden sleep rules. Welcome to Soul Tapping. Today we're talking about the topic of sleep. I think I made a video about 2 years ago on the topic of sleep disorders. And today I have a list of 10 for you with my 10 golden sleep rules. Of course, there's a lot to say about the topic of sleep. Everyone might have different tips, everyone has different causes. I just want to share the things that have helped me. I have suffered from sleep disorders for many years. And today I'm sharing my 10 best tips. Number 1 is always very important. Have the physical causes clarified, if there are any. So if you're experiencing depression, or suffering from anxiety disorders or something like that, then it's likely that the stress, the emotional stress, is the cause of your sleep disorder. But of course, there can always be physical causes as well. That's why this is my rule number 1. Just have it checked out easily. For example, you could have your thyroid hormones checked. So, there can be hormonal disorders. These can also lead to you feeling cold more often, having cold feet, or sweating more, whatever the case may be. Such things are also not good for sleeping. Or maybe there are more such issues like restless leg syndrome, where you always have restless, tingling legs. Or maybe you have some deficiencies, like, I don't know, a magnesium deficiency. With iron deficiency, whatever it may be, maybe have that checked out. Or maybe it's due to medications. So, if you're taking medications, just ask if it could be one of the side effects that you can't sleep because of it, depending on what you're taking. Sometimes it can have a paradoxical effect. For example, antidepressants that are supposed to calm you might actually prevent you from sleeping. Or if you have some kind of stomach pain, any intestinal problems. Look into this organ clock, according to traditional Chinese medicine. Duh. That certain organs are always active, at specific times. And depending on if you, for example, always wake up at the same time at night, it could be due to that organ. Liver, intestines, whatever. So something like that could happen, for example, if you have food intolerances that you aren't even aware of. Then it might affect your intestines. And then it could be that you can't sleep because of it. And of course, a huge reason for not being able to sleep is stress. So if you have to go to the bathroom at night, it's always better to maybe, I don't know, drink a lot, like really a lot, about 2 hours, before you go to bed to fill up, so that it can come out again, and then you really don't drink anything before sleeping. But those are probably tips that I don't need to tell you. You probably already know them. I just wanted to mention it again here because it can also be a physical cause. For sleep disturbances. The golden rule number 2 is the external conditions. Make sure you optimize them somehow. Important are darkness, silence, a comfortable room temperature, and having a pleasant, cozy bedroom. Also, make sure that, for example, that your bedroom is not a storage room where laundry is drying and where various things are lying around or something like that. All of that doesn't necessarily promote sleep. Make sure your bed is comfortable, or if the mattress is sagging, or your pillow, or whatever it may be. But you maybe change your pillow from time to time. All these external conditions do play a role. Feng Shui, take a look into it. See how your bedroom is set up in terms of energy. Maybe you can just spend some time on that. Because if you're lying in some uncomfortable corner, there are simply things you can't see at first glance that can lead to your sleep not being so good. Plants are also a topic. To optimize the room air, you could, for example, place plants in the room that release oxygen at night. Most plants don't do that, but The room air is better if you have certain types of plants. In your bedroom, for example, we have a snake plant, a peace lily, a spider plant, but I think you can also aloe vera, yucca palm. There are more like that. You can just Google it. If you place them in your bedroom, it can also improve the external conditions. Point number 3 is another part that essentially still belongs to the external conditions, namely, if you are in a relationship. Feel it out. Are you happy with the person sleeping next to you, and be completely honest with them? That can sometimes be a bit frightening to really feel it out honestly, because you might be afraid, oh no, what if I have to admit to myself that my partner no longer makes me happy, or that I become aggressive because I'm lying next to them, because they snore, or for some other reason? Yes. So, dare to really feel it out openly and honestly within yourself. Are you still in the right relationship? Is that the right bed you're sleeping in? That could also be a reason. Point number 4. Please use the bed only for sleeping. So it's about conditioning our brain. You need to condition your brain, or your subconscious, to understand that only sleeping happens in that place. That means no eating, no working, no reading, no watching TV, or anything like that. Because then your brain gets completely confused and doesn't know what to do when. And if you do this every night, only sleeping in this bed, then your brain knows it needs to wind down. My brain waves, now I need to sleep. It might be a simple tip, but perhaps not so obvious, depending on the conditions in your apartment and what space options you have. So please, only sleep in bed. Point 5. Avoid no-gos. In the last 2 hours before you go to sleep, it's very important to avoid certain things that can lead to poor sleep. And specifically, please don't engage in intense exercise. A light evening walk, a bit of light movement is good. It might make you a little tired, but doing excessive exercise is not good. No, jogging in the evening hours or anything like that, it doesn't work. Also, don't get on the exercise bike just because you didn't have time earlier. That gets your circulation going, and then it takes a long time until you can wind down again. Then, no more bright lights. No blue light, for example from screens. Don't look at screens in the last 2 hours before sleeping. Neither on your phone nor on the PC, if possible. Avoid all of that, and along with that, no more negative news. Nothing that agitates you in any way. No horror movies, no thrilling crime stories, or anything like that. Really give yourself peace in the last 2 hours. Because otherwise, it might get you more worked up than you thought. And that includes not only avoiding negative or exciting news, but also not having stimulating conversations. Something that keeps running through your mind for hours afterward or something like that. No arguments, no controversial topics. None of that in the last 2 hours before going to sleep. Of course, no alcohol. That doesn't help. So if you drink beer or wine or anything like that, it might make you pass out. But the quality of sleep is significantly reduced, and of course, alcohol is not a solution. This also includes other things that can be stimulating, like caffeine, for example. No coffee, no cola, and no sugar in the evening. That also boosts the circulation. And no vitamin C, for example, as it also boosts and is stimulating. Or no spicy, heavy food with chili and hard to digest ingredients. And, no heavy meals. These are all things that you might not always consciously think about, but they can definitely affect the quality of sleep significantly. Golden rule number 6 is having set rituals. Treat yourself. Regular sleep times, if possible. If your job allows it, go to bed at the same time every night. This also has to do with conditioning the brain. And if possible, no naps, because that can backfire. You disrupt your sleep rhythm if you try to catch up on sleep or nap in the afternoon. So, then an evening walk, for example, could be a ritual. Or something like, I don't know, whatever is relaxing, a bathtub, sauna, depending on what you have available. Relaxation techniques. Progressive muscle relaxation, autogenic training, meditation. Listening to relaxation music, really creating a relaxation ritual. Treat yourself to this before sleeping, do it for a while, every evening, and see if it changes anything. It's also important that you wind down slowly, that you don't go from a full-on 100% active life down to zero, but maybe start winding down earlier. Dim the lights a bit, maybe light a candle like I do. And what you can also do is write gratitude lists. In the evening, for example, you can either write down your worries, anything that's bothering you, just to get it out of your system so you don't take it with you into sleep. Or you can write gratitude lists, thinking every evening about what you're grateful for today, no matter how little or small it is. These things are: write these lists every evening, 10 things every evening, and it will make a difference. Then not only will your mood change, but also your sleep. And the last thought, of course, as a ritual, is to make sure that your last thoughts before falling asleep are positive. Because in the state you're in, between wakefulness and sleep, the brain waves are in the theta pattern, so to speak. In the beta waves, they are in wakefulness. Alpha waves are when you're so relaxed, like in meditation. Theta is the state somewhere between sleep and wakefulness. And delta waves would be the sleep waves. And when you're in the theta state, just before falling asleep and also in the morning, shortly after waking up, the brain is in a hypnosis-like state. That means it is very suggestible. You can input information that gets stored particularly well. And that's why it's so important to pay attention to it. To think something positive before falling asleep and after waking up. For example, you can plan the night before what you want to think about the next morning. Something nice that you have planned for the day, like anticipation. That you consciously align yourself with it and practice it repeatedly, because you should avoid thinking anything negative just before you fall asleep. So, point 7. Be cautious with sleeping pills. Sleeping pills, especially in terms of benzodiazepines, you might be familiar with TAVR. These are emergency medications. They are not meant for everyday use to fall asleep every night, simply because they are highly addictive. This doesn't necessarily apply to antidepressants, but for benzodiazepines, it does. You should really only take them for a maximum of 2 weeks, and then, regardless of how you feel or how well you can sleep, definitely taper off again. Also important, never stop them abruptly, because very severe withdrawal symptoms can occur. Therefore, be cautious with sleeping pills. So, you can take them occasionally. It's okay if you just keep a pack in your nightstand. Just for safety, so you know if nothing else works, you can take one, as an exception. So, but as I said, be careful with them, and if the doctor prescribes you something, make sure to ask questions. That happened to me once. I was prescribed something to help me sleep, and I don't remember anyone telling me that these things could be addictive. After 6 weeks, I decided on my own to stop taking them because it made me uneasy. And I intuitively made the right decision, and only found out later that those things can be addictive. So, asking questions is always very important. It's better to rely on natural remedies instead. There are many natural options, like calming teas and such, valerian, hops, lemon balm, extract. For example, we always have lavender, then this ashwagandha, which I can also highly recommend to you. It comes in powder form, as capsules. It doesn't taste very good, so I would take it as a capsule. It's some kind of Indian plant, which is called sleepberry in German. Yes, so it's something natural that you can just take. And what is always good for sleeping is melatonin. This is the sleep hormone that the body normally produces. You can take it as a dietary supplement. It doesn't harm you, as far as I know. You can actually take it. You have to be a bit careful with the dosage. Of course, it doesn't have the same effect as a sleeping pill. It doesn't knock you out, so there's no guarantee that you'll be able to sleep, but at least. It lasts a few hours for me. It usually works quite well. So there's that. These are not official tips, just personal tips from me. Very important I am. These are not official prescriptions from a naturopath or anything, just so you know. I am a naturopath for psychotherapy, which means I don't prescribe natural medications, nothing. These are simply my personal tips, what has helped me. For example, what helps me best in the evening is the combination of ashwagandha, melatonin, and lemon balm extract. Just as a tip, give it a try. Then, of course, you can also try globules. So, things like Bach flowers, Schussler salts, there are. These so-called hot 7, maybe you've heard of it before. The number 7 in Schussler salts, that's the homeopathic magnesium. You can dissolve 10 tablets in water and then drink it sip by sip. And then it calms and relaxes you and such. For example, as a suggestion, you can try it out. Golden rule number 8, address your stress issues. I really give you the tip to deal with them during the day. If you suppress them during the day, they will come up at night. Yes, you can save yourself many sleepless hours by addressing them during the day or at least in the evening before going to sleep. For example, tapping on the issues of your day. So, you can do a tapping ritual where every evening before sleeping, you think about whether there was something today that bothered you or is still on your mind. Then, tap on it for a round instead of just lying down and falling asleep. Because I've often experienced that. If I don't pull myself together, if I act as if I have no problem, I get kicked out of sleep at night and have to tap instead of sleeping. That's why this is my tip. So that you don't get kicked out of sleep at night, it's best to take the trigger situation when it happens and tap right away. And then, you'll save yourself many sleepless hours. Golden rule number 9. There's a nice old saying that goes, a clear conscience is a soft pillow. Feel inside if you have any guilt. Is there something where you might not have been completely honest with yourself, or others, something that weighs on you without you always being aware of it? So, feel into that. Could it be that you're constantly postponing something unpleasant, putting it off, something you should have done a long time ago, something that's been due for a while? Like taking important steps, making changes, making decisions, for example. Or even everyday things, like visiting the dentist, or doing your taxes. Or is there perhaps some interpersonal conflict that you still haven't dared to address or resolve, or something like that? That's a real reason for not being able to sleep. So you should just dive in, clean up, and motivate yourself. And with a clear conscience, you'll sleep on a gentle pillow of rest. And the golden rule number 10. Tap instead of tossing. So the worst thing you can do is toss and turn, getting upset that you're lying awake. Worrying, allowing your ruminating thoughts. Trying to solve your problems. At night in your sleep, always thinking, I must sleep now, I must sleep now, I have to be fit tomorrow, otherwise. Forget it. You'll notice pretty quickly when you wake up at night whether you have a chance to fall back asleep or not. And if you realize you don't have a chance, then it's better to get up. Make yourself some tea, light a candle, sit down. With a piece of paper and a pen, for example, write down your worries, then they're out of you. or if you have a human conflict. In the meantime, write to the person. You don't have to send a letter. You don't have to, depending on the situation, but then it's out of you. Anne. During my depression, during my sleep disorder, I tapped for many, many nights, 23 hours straight. Anne. It wasn't pleasant. I thought at the time that I could have spared myself a lot of it, but in hindsight, it did bring me a step further each time. So, actually, I wouldn't want to miss those nightly tapping sessions, because the advantage is that at night, the mind isn't quite as active. And the subconscious is a bit more open, the door is a bit more open at night. And I had, at times, astonishing, great insights about God and the world and about life while I was tapping at night. So, I can highly recommend it to you. If you can't sleep anyway, then it's better to sit up and tap, instead of just tossing and turning and lying there and wasting time, so to speak. I always felt like it was wasted time to lie around at night, so I tapped instead. If you sometimes wake up at night with panic attacks, then I highly recommend doing my emergency tapping routine. You can find it on my YouTube channel. If you're awake at night with fear, restlessness, or any other distress, and you're not just lying there awake, but really in fear, or something like that, try out the emergency tapping routine. Back then, I did it in such a way that I took tapping phrases that made me feel good. I wrote them down on a list, a sundina, for sheet. I laminated it nicely and placed it in my nightstand because my panic attacks mostly came at night. Then I had everything ready and had my emergency drops there. I can also highly recommend the Rescue Remedy drops from Bach Flowers, just to place them next to the bed. And then I also had a few other small tools ready. I was always well prepared for it, and could use it for myself. And then somehow, how should I say, I kind of worked through it because I knew. I woke up and thought, okay, it's happening again. All right, bam, took the drops and drink a lot of water. That's also quite helpful, I've noticed repeatedly. Sometimes you're dehydrated at night, maybe just then. If you drank too little in the evening because you were afraid of having to go to the bathroom at night, then your body is dehydrated and you can't sleep. So, you have to find a golden middle ground somehow. And, yes, if you have your tools and techniques and little remedies ready, then trudge through it, do your tapping rounds, and then lie back down and sleep. Yes, that's all for today on my top 10 list about sleep. Now I wish you a restful night. Take care.